Okay, I'm making this video as sort of a public service announcement, and this may not come as news to all of you, but I suspect some people watching will benefit from the lessons that I've learned the hard way. This is a bit of an embarrassing story, but bear with me. A couple months ago, I made a video about a couple of SEIKOs, the Seiko 5 Sports Worn-and-Wound Edition and the SARB017 Alpinist. Well, that Alpinist turned out to be a fake. So grab a seat, get your popcorn out. Let me tell you about how all of this went south. Hey guys, I'm Max and this is Watch Crunch. Do you have some new watches that you have your eye on for the new year? Come share them with us on watchcrunch.com, a community of watch nerds determined to have better watch discussions in 2023. Okay, here goes. So years ago, I had a SARB017 Alpinist, but I sadly sold it, and it was always like the watch that I regret selling the most. Well, about a year ago, I was scrolling through Instagram, and every time I saw an Alpinist, I would get this wave of nostalgia. So I knew it was time. I was ready to get my Alpinist back. But as you know, the watch was discontinued in 2018, so you can't just go and order one on like Amazon. Plus, used ones are now fetching premiums near $1,000. I mean, this was a great watch, and you could argue with inflation and such, it's maybe worth that much, but it's just a bitter pill for me to swallow when I sold mine back in the day for like $350. But the Alpinist was always a special watch, no matter how you look at it. Its size was in that Goldilocks zone with a 39mm wide case, 46 lug to lug. It's robust enough for daily wear with 200 meters of water resistance coming by way of a screw-down crown. It has all the prestige of Seiko's in-house manufacturing and 70 years of Japanese mountaineering history. And lastly, its design is just so classic with those even numerals, those big cathedral hands, and that dial. Oh my, that beautiful green iridescent dial. This watch lived rent-free in my head for years. So I looked up and down the internet and eventually found my way to eBay. And yeah, you should be worried. But surprise, surprise, you can find plenty of supposedly new SARB017s for sale, some even coming with a bracelet, which by the way never came on that watch. But I was overly enthused, I pulled the trigger, and when the watch arrived, it felt like I was reunited with the old lover. My watch box was complete again, but you know, thinking back, there was something that was a little bit off even from the beginning. That old lover looked a little bit different, smelled a little bit different, just didn't quite feel the same way on the wrist. And trying to pin it down, it was really down to the dial. It just appeared kind of flat. It didn't look as rich as I had remembered. But you know what? It's been a few years. I just chalked it up to the tenuous nature of memory. So I put my doubts aside, proceeded with enjoying that watch. Then I made the video, and that's when things got interesting. See, in the hundreds of comments in that video, I got the odd, "This watch doesn't look right," or "The logo looks off." I didn't think much of it because honestly, you kind of gotta take the YouTube comment section with a grain of salt, but after like the third comment, I got suspicious. So I started looking into this, and oh boy, that's when the wheels fell off the wagon. But first guys, if you enjoy videos like this, especially ones where I'm not just fawning over a watch and I'm also talking about some of the not so pleasant parts of the hobby, do me a favor, drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps the channel out. Yeah, so long story short, this thing was indeed a fake. I mean, a really good fake at that, but it broke my heart. It turned out that instead of reuniting with a lost lover, this was like having a robot deep fake sent from the future, and I was stuck with it in the uncanny valley. I've gone through all 5 stages of grief at this point, so let me take a moment and talk you through some of the details to be able to tell the fake SARB017 from the real one so that hopefully you guys don't fall for the same scam. And by the way, I've since discovered an Alpinist I love maybe even more in the SPB210, which is the one with the gold case. And I think it works super well with those gold markers and the gold hands. And so I'll use this watch to compare with the fake just to demonstrate some of the differences. First, let's take a look at the Seiko logo on the dial because that's what tipped off a few people in the video. Note that the real one has more of a matte finish, whereas the fake is glossy. And then also notice that the real one has more defined edges. It's raised a bit higher, whereas the fake is more flat and rounded. Another tell is the crown. On the real Alpinist, it takes a couple of full turns to screw the crown down, but on the fake, it barely turns one turn. It seems that the crown never fully seats in between the crown guards. This is not only aesthetically displeasing, but it likely renders any gasket there useless for keeping water out. Now, others on the internet have also received fake SARBs with dials missing loom pips or cases with micro scratches, or one even said that the compass bezel didn't turn with the accessory crown, but mine didn't have these issues. Now look at the date window. You'll notice another subtle difference. The real watch has two outlines. The fake just has one gold outline. The strap is next. Now, Seiko straps have never been a forte, and the SARB one was pretty stiff, but on the fake, it was like unwearable. And the color was also washed out and the buckle was unsigned. Lastly, we get to the movement. The SARB017 ran the 6R15, which was a step up from the 7S26 with hacking, hand winding. It was also better than the 4Rs, now with 50 hours of power, better accuracy. Lastly, for the Mountaineers version, Seiko gave it anti-shock protection in the form of a Diaflex mainspring, Dia-shock isolation for the escapement. But the easiest way to spot the fake is just to look at the rotor. The real 6R has a rotor that has these vertical striping that's quite conspicuous, and on the fake, it's just a flat, stamped steel one. I mean, it runs fine, but it ain't the real thing. So add all of this up, and the conclusion is I got fleeced. I got bamboozled. I mean, I've seen fake Rolexes, I've even bought a fake Panerai on accident before, but I didn't think we'd have to deal with fake Seikos. Hell, in my research, people even talk about fake Casios. That's the world we live in now. And I think by discontinuing the SARB017 and having the prices go vertical like this, Seiko inadvertently created a market for fakes. And there's a reason why people love the OG Alpinist. It doesn't have the X on the dial or that stupid date cyclops. Now, I imagine a lot of you with the Alpinist 017 are gonna go check yours. And if you don't have one, I say, you know what? At this point, look elsewhere. There's other alternatives, like the gold SBP210, one of my favorites. The strap is even pretty fantastic on the new one. Look at the Laurel Alpinist. It's a super classic vintage inspired design from the early days of the line. Now, I'll probably leave the old review up and just update the description with a disclaimer so that people can still reference it, but be careful out there, guys. Have a good new year. If you're worried about buying a fake watch, online forums are probably one of the best places to ask questions, so come join the discussion on watchcrunch.com. I'll put a link in the pinned comments below. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.